Alright, chapter 5.7 is about line of best fit. This is a lie because there's only one more section of this chapter, and it is a skill-based topic that must be practiced to be successful. This is a very easy section. With this being a short week, you should be able to finish this section pretty quickly, get to your pre-test. Hopefully you have 90% on everything, and then you can kind of prepare for the test over the next couple days, which there is nothing else you can do but wait for that test on Wednesday. Remember, again, you can take that you have to take that test by Monday, but I suggest you take it Wednesday. Hopefully you put yourself in position, and then you can enjoy your weekend before we get back to work. But anyway, today's lesson is going to introduce what we call line of best fit. We've done work with graphing lines that are perfectly straight, but in real life that's rarely the case. Most things are not 100% predictable. This does not mean there can't be a pattern, because if you look at these situations here, for example, number of hours studying and final grade percentage. If your number of hours studying goes up, for example, what should your final grade percentage do? Well, it should increase if you're talking about a real life situation. The more you study, the better you should do, so it should be a positive situation because, again, increase on one, increase on the other. Just like in the beginning, chapter 5.1, that is a positive situation. Number of hours of exercise and heart attacks. Again, if the number of exercise hours goes up, it should lead to a situation where the number of heart attacks you would have go down, and so because those are opposites, that would be a negative correlation. Amount of money spent on shoes and points made in the game. Pretty much the more money you spend on shoes, what's that going to do with the number of points you make in a game? Shouldn't do anything at all. If you spend more money, yeah, your shoes look good, but it doesn't improve or change how you perform. So that would be no correlation. This would be like height and grade average. Like, those things don't have anything to do with each other. And so these are the three things you're going to talk about with what we're having here, which is called scatter plots. The situations with positive and negative correlation may not be 100% predictable, but there is typically an average that we expect to be true. This is where the line of best fit comes in. Let's look at some examples of what you're going to see. This is your test question. This is what you're really preparing for. There are some other questions on your test, that your homework, that you're going to see, but the bottom line is you should be able to read this thing and move fluently through it as long as you are preparing. The scatter plot below shows the number of mistakes a piano player makes during a recital versus the time they practice. So this is hours of practice. This is number of mistakes. And so they simply plotted a bunch of points, and that's why it's called a scatter plot. And then they drew a line of best fit, which is what you would expect to have happen. So what happens is, if you want to answer how many would you expect after 4 hours of practice, you go to 4 hours of practice, you go up to your line of best fit, which is here, and see that it is at 80. You do not read the dot, you read where the line is at, because this is what you would expect. The dots are really what happened, but the line is what you would expect to happen. So again, how many would you expect after 12 hours of practice? Go to 12, go up to the dot, which is here. Notice that 12 leads me to the number of 60. How many mistakes would you expect after 10 hours of practice? Go to 10 hours, go up. Notice that this takes me right here. The best approximation for that, if that's 60 and that's 80, this must be 70, so that would be 65 mistakes. And after 2 hours of practice, which would be here, again on that line, that's 80, that's 90, so it's probably 85 mistakes. Again, this process is not difficult. Just be sure you really look at the value before guessing. It's not going to be like a 64 or 63. It's either going to be 60, 80, 65, 85, something like that. So again, even though you can't write on the picture, just make sure you use the mouse or use your fingertip to kind of visualize what's going on. But again, that's your question you need to be ready for on the test. But again, some actual scatter plots that have been found on the internet. For example, temperature and sales. As the temperature increases, sales increase. This might be like for ice cream, because of course the hotter it is, the more people want ice cream. I usually don't buy a lot of ice cream in the winter, but I would buy a lot of ice cream in the summer. But again, this is your scatter plot, and so what you would be eventually asked to do at some point in your math career is to use a graphing calculator and to find a line of best fit that could be used. And that line of best fit should be something to where it kind of goes through the middle of the material and gives a good expectation. Again, a graphing calculator, one of the things that you really have not had to work with, that actually has the ability to, actually even the calculator that I usually use has the ability to give you the equation of the line that fits. But again, that's what we're talking about. And looking at the fact that this has a positive slope means that this has a positive correlation. Looking at another one, again, this is car weight and miles per gallon. Again, typically the bigger the car is, the more gas it burns, which is why you'll see a light car has a high mile per gallon, a heavy car has a low mile per gallon. But again, if you were to draw a line to represent it, it would look something like this, something like that. Again, we don't need it to be perfect, but you just need to understand that part. And then what we're looking at is this obviously is a negative correlation because of course it's going in a downward direction. And then here we have age and score on a GMAT. So I guess I think that's your master's before you go to school for your master's. And you notice that there is no real direction here, which means I really can't draw a line, which means this is the one that has no correlation. So on your homework, it should give some basic questions that you can answer. Just make sure you do your best, and again, speak up when you need help. But again, your test is Wednesday. Make sure you are ready for that test on Wednesday so you can actually take it before your break and then actually relax instead of waiting until after the break when you kind of forget some things, because your pre-test also closes on Wednesday. So, it's best to go ahead and do it then. Other than that, make sure you answer the last question, and good luck.